Hi guys, in this video I'm going to show you how to use ChatGPT with Python in order to translate some inputs to the Spanish language. We will be using Django, probably most popular Python web framework, in order to do this simple example. So let's see how this actually works. I'm going to type, "What is your name?" And here we have the response. "How are you today?" And again, here is the translation. Also, I'm going to show you how to ask any question to ChatGPT and also how you can limit the responses from ChatGPT. So it's not only going to be about translating instructions to the Spanish language. So without further ado, let's get started. Before we begin, I just want to mention that on my Instagram account, Pyplane Code, there is a preview of the ChatGPT with React.js mini project, which is very similar to the one that we are going to build right now. But yeah, as mentioned before, it's written in React.js, and I will also publish this tutorial probably this week. So if you are interested what we are going to build in a few days, you can visit my Instagram account, Pyplane Code, and click on this particular reel. Now let's take a look at what have I done so far. And I just want to mention that this is going to be an extremely simple example with no database interactions. So we won't store inputs and outputs in the DB. We could do this, of course, but we are going to skip this for simplicity purposes. So actually what I have over here is a basic Django project, and I added a templates directory for our base HTML and main HTML, which will inherit from this base HTML. And then I also added some instructions for the templates, so Django can find the additional templates that we've placed over here. And this is basically it. If we take a look at the base HTML, this is a bootstrap template which has been adjusted a little bit with this div and the block content inside of it, so we can actually inherit from this particular template. And the only template which will inherit from this base HTML will be the main HTML, and I did it because of the readability purposes, so it will be easier for you to follow along from this than from this, okay? So the plan for the rest of the video is to install the necessary dependencies, and we will need openai and python.env. Next, we will get the API key from openai. We will create a view inside of our main project folder. So inside of this core directory, we will create a views.py file and create necessary view, which will interact with our main HTML. So once we create this view, we will go to the main HTML and do some coding over there. And finally, we will test our solution with different instructions. So let's begin with installing openai. So pip install -- upgrade openai. Let's paste it over here. Let's install it. And then we will also need the python.env in order to read our openai key, which will be placed in the env file. So if we want to obtain this key from the env file, we will need python.env for this. So let's install it as well. All right, so the next thing to do is to go to beta.openai.com accounts API keys. And we simply need to create an account, and then we just need to press create new security key, all right? And then if we go to usage, we can see that we are granted with $18 credit, which will expire. In my case, it will expire on the 1st of April 2023, okay? And if you would like to create a paid account, you just need to go to billing, view the different pricing options, provide a payment method, and start using OpenAI professionally. So it's really cool that we have the opportunity to test things out with the free trial. And now we need to grab our API key and place it in the .env file. So now let's go to our project folder, to Visual Studio Code. Let's create a .env file, and then let's create an OpenAI key, and inside of the quotation marks, insert your secret key from OpenAI. I'm going to do it right now. As the next step, let's go to core, let's create a views py file over here, and let's paste in all the necessary imports. So we will be using a function view, that's why we will need render. Then we are importing OpenAI and OS. With the use of OS, we will get our environment variable, but we also need for this .env. So we are importing from .env load.env, and we are calling load.env over here. And now we can create an open, or let's call it just an API key. And this is going to be equal os get nv, and we will try to get the OpenAI key. And otherwise, we will simply have this API key set to none. All right, now we can create a function view called chatbot. Not chatboy, but chatbot, which takes in a request, and we will return render the request. Then we will need to provide the template name. In our case, this is going to be the main HTML. And here we will have for now an empty dictionary, because currently we don't have anything that we can pass to our main HTML. Let's create a variable called chatbot response, and initially let's set it to none. And now we will do a simple check if the API key is not none, and if the request method is equal to post, then we are going to work with the OpenAI platform. First of all, we will need to grab the user input. So the user input is going to be the only input in our form placed in the main HTML. This is going to be the place where the user writes instructions. So for example, translate this kind of sentence to the Spanish language, for example. Okay, so we will see how this works in practice. So here, let's write request and then post get, and we will have the user input field named as user input. So we will see how this works in just a second. We will also need to set the OpenAI key to this API key. So maybe above, let's write OpenAI API key, and let's set it to this API key. Okay. So this is the second step. Now what we need to do is to write some instructions. So as a general instruction, we will create a variable prompt and set it to the user input. All right. So we won't be doing any translation just yet. We are just going to provide some general instructions. So at this moment, you can literally ask anything to the OpenAI platform. All right. Finally, we need to create a response. And we will do this with the OpenAI and then completion create. Here we need to specify the engine, and this is going to be text DaVinci 003. And then if we go to the OpenAI platform and if we visit pricing, I think, we have some language models and we see that ADA is the fastest. However, the DaVinci is the most powerful. So we are using an engine from the DaVinci model right now. Okay, so let's go back. And as the next step, we will pass the prompt. So the instruction. All right, prompt. Then we will have the max tokens. We are going to set it to 256, and basically we will get a response with maximum 256 words, okay? We can also provide a stop. So with stop, if we write an instruction and for example, the stop will be set to dot. So if the instruction is translate something from English to Spanish, and we will write a sentence like hello world dot, and then how are you? Then it will stop on hello world and we will return a translated hello world, okay? How are you is going to be ignored. So what I'm going to do is to actually comment the stop for now. And I'm also going to put in temperature set to 0.5. And with the temperature setting, we control the level of creativity and variation. So a lower temperature will result in more conservative and predictable output, but the higher temperature will result in a more diverse and creative output. So you can simply play around with this setting. All right, and this is going to be our response. What we are going to do right now is to simply print the response, and we can now focus on the main HTML. So I'm going to save this views.py file. We are not done yet, but we can simply test it out if it's working or not if we finish our main HTML first. So in the block content, what we will need right now is maybe an H3. This is going to be write an instruction. We will later change it for translating to Spanish. For now, let's leave it like this. And then form method is equal to post. We also will need a CSRF token, and we need to put in the input, which is going to be type text. We will have a class equal to form control from Bootstrap. And I missed a quotation mark. All right. And then we'll set the name to user input. So we can actually grab it like this over here. All right. So the next thing is to have a button which will submit this form. So I'm just going to copy mine very fast and paste it. All right. So now let's save this. We are not done with this main HTML file just yet because we will need to render the response below the form. But for now, this is enough. And we can go to the URLs PY. And here we just need to import our view. So let's do it very quickly. And we need to place this view in the URL patterns. All right. So let's save this and run Python manage py run server. And if, okay, so in the views.py, it should be like this without the if. And there it is. So we can write an instruction, hello world. submit, let's see. Yes, and there it is. So this is actually working. We have the response. The response is over here. Hello world, it's nice to meet you. Perfect. Let's do something else. Let's write, how are you doing? I'm doing well, thanks for asking. How about you? Okay, let's ask something more specific. Who is the director of the first Harry Potter movie? All right. And the director of the first Harry Potter movie is Chris Columbus. All right, this is working. So what we need to do next is actually to grab this text as the response and pass it to the template so we can actually display it in the template down here below. So this is going to be pretty easy. Below the print with the response, we can create a chatbot response, which is going to be set to response and then choices. So we need to go to choices and then grab this text. So in order to do this, we just need to write choices, 0, and then text. Okay. And then as a response, we are going to return the chatbot response. All right. So now we can move to main HTML and we can simply do a check if the response exists, and then we can display it with the save filter. All right. So let's try it out right now. Who is the director of the first Harry Potter movie? Or let's change it and let's write third. Okay, submit. The director of the third Harry Potter movie is Alfonso Cuarón. Okay, it seems to be working. So right now you can ask any question to this chatbot. I'm going to add a break line over here. And right now, as mentioned before, you can ask any question. Let's now do a little bit more specific example. So what we want to do is to tell ChatGPT to translate whatever we input in our input field, okay? So how to do this? Well, we need to go back to our views PY. We can comment out our prompt as a general instruction. And let's create a new prompt with a little bit more specific instruction. So we will use the F string, and here we can simply write translate this text from English to Spanish. Okay, and or we don't need to actually put in English. We can just write translate this text to Spanish, and then we can write it in any language and it will be translated to Spanish. And then we just need to put in the user input. Okay, so let's save this and let's test it out. I'm going to refresh. And how are you? And there it is, okay? And then I'm going to write it in Polish. And it's the same. And let's translate it. And there it is. Okay, so this is working. Now let's comment this out. And I'm just going to paste a different prompt. If the question related, or if the question is related to weather, answer it, user input. Else, say can't answer this, okay? So first of all, ChatGPT doesn't have access to real life data. This is AI which is trained on some data, on huge amounts of data, but I think it's trained until some month of 2021. So it won't be able to provide you with the real data. For example, if I ask, what is the weather right now in New York, it won't be able to give you precise information about this. But we will try and we will see what the response is going to be. But anyway, this is an example how you can limit the response of the ChatGPT. So if you want the ChatGPT only to return an answer on specific topics, you can do it like this. If the question is related to something, answer it, and otherwise just write can't answer this. So I'm going to save this and we will check this out. How are you? Or let's do it like this. How are you? And we have now can't answer this. What is the weather in Alicante? The current weather in Alicante is sunny with a high of 25 degrees and low of 17 degrees Celsius. So I'm currently in Alicante and the weather is sunny. However, there's no way the weather is 17 up to 25 degrees. It's much colder than this. So it's giving an answer based on historical data. The current word is a little bit misleading, okay? But anyway, this is just an example how you can limit the response from ChatGPT. And I think we can finish off over here. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, please consider subscribing to the channel and we will see each other in the next video. Take care and bye-bye.